Matter of fact, I would say that Charlotte at number 3 and Minneapolis at number 4 are going to be the biggest surprises around the country when they look at our project that we've completed here. I think the thing that pushes Charlotte over the top, especially against some of the similarly sized markets, number one, you have that motorsports footprint. There are thousands of people employed in motorsports in Charlotte, from the race teams to the facility to even the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So that gives Charlotte a real advantage in terms of just the number of people employed in sports. I think another thing that helps Charlotte is an oversized media footprint. When you think about ESPN and how many employees they have for the SEC network, for ESPN Events, which runs a lot of their business out of Charlotte. So that can't be underestimated. And I think that gives Charlotte an advantage that maybe some other cities its size don't have. Getting back to our methodology a little bit, one of the buckets of data that we use, we interviewed about 100 top-level executives from around the industry and just got their anonymous feedback. We wanted them to be as honest with us as they could. They gave Charlotte really high marks. So it's a great environment for business. The banks and financial sector really underpin a lot of the sponsorship here, and I think that's important. Plus, not to mention, great people, great weather, great food and restaurants. It really is, just outside of sports, a great place to live. So people may be surprised by Charlotte, but I think folks within the sports industry will not be nearly as surprised. I think one thing that Charlotte has done over the last few years is build some more hotel rooms. That's important. You know, we have talked for years and years about it. Would Charlotte ever be able to potentially host a Super Bowl? Maybe wanting a domed stadium is part of that, but another part of that equation was just how are we going to fit all these people in the city when they're coming in for a Super Bowl? They're starting to resolve some of those problems. So I think events in Charlotte, you mentioned a lot of them. Don't underestimate what goes on at Quail Hollow. The PGA Championship, the Ryder Cup, those are really big sort of premier marquee events, and Charlotte is winning a lot of those bids. So I think that as the city grows and as it establishes these public-private partnerships around sports, I don't see this as something that is going to recede. I think Charlotte is going to continue to be a hub for sports. One of the metrics we looked at, Charlotte actually in our study came out as the 4th fastest growing region in the country. So Dallas is our number 1 city in this report. Dallas is very similar to Charlotte in that it is a growth city. If you think about Dallas, you have so many transplants from California that move in because of the low taxes. Government regulation is not nearly as strict. It's just very business friendly. Charlotte, kind of on the East Coast, has that same dynamic. You have people moving in from New York. You have people moving in from Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. We know that because when you go to a Panthers game and those teams are playing, it's hard to tell sometimes who the home team is. But that plays into Charlotte as a destination city. This is the type of place that people move to and they stay because they like it. So the facilities in Charlotte are top notch. Virtually any kind of sport you want is played here. We'll see if Charlotte is in the running for a Major League Baseball team or not. Even if they don't get it, it's easy to see that the Knights have one of the top minor league facilities anywhere. That's almost like watching Major League Baseball when you go to a Knights game. It's a great environment. So Charlotte has a lot going for it, and I think they've put a lot of effort into this in the last few years, and this is the result of that. Well, one of the things we looked at was if I'm let's say I'm a salesperson for a vendor in the sports space, and I want to visit a city, and in 2 days, I want to make as many in-person sales calls as I can. Charlotte's a great place for that. All of the properties are located essentially within blocks of each other uptown. Getting around Charlotte is not nearly as difficult as it is, say, in Los Angeles or Atlanta, 2 cities that are bigger than Charlotte but got dinged for this type of thing in our survey. So I think Charlotte it rates really highly with people coming into town. They like what they see. They know that they can do business here. When you talk about the financial services industry, just look at what they've done with local sponsorship. So, you know, Bank of America obviously has a huge relationship with the Panthers in the stadium. Ally with Charlotte FC's jersey. Ally has been a great corporate sponsor and has done a lot of really innovative stuff with their sponsorships. Truist has the deal with the Knights. Lending Tree has the Hornets jersey patches. So these are all local financial institutions that are heavily invested in sports, and that means a lot to people when they come into town. They know they can hit up 4 of the biggest sponsors in sports, and they're all located within just a block of each other right uptown. So those are the kind of things that help Charlotte out a lot. The financial services industry, is the bedrock on which the city's built. I think as a baseball city, the first thing you have to think of is there are 81 home games. Are we really going to be able to draw 30,000 people a night to 81 home games? There's reason to think that you can. Number one, the weather here is fantastic. So you're not going to have some of the problems you may have in Cleveland, and Milwaukee as far as getting snow dates. But, can Charlotte support 81 home games a year? That really is a big question. You do, like I said, have so many transplants that you'll have a lot of fans from the visiting teams that will go and show up for games. I think that will help. We'll see. I mean, I think we weren't sure that soccer was going to take off in Charlotte, and we see how successful that's been. Just looking at what Charlotte FC is doing right now, winning and losing doesn't seem to matter. They're having great success. Now, over time, that's where winning and losing, we say around here all the time, there's no promotion like winning. So there's no marketing or sales efforts you'll ever be able to do that is better than just winning games. And so if Charlotte has a Major League Baseball team and they end up being a small market team with a low payroll like, say, Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Detroit, and they're going to kind of languish around the bottom of the league, baseball's revenue sharing structure is such that you'll have the Mets with a $300 million payroll and the Pirates with a $60 million payroll. That's pretty unique in sports. So if I were to look into a crystal ball and say 10 years from now Charlotte had a Major League Baseball team, but its payroll was near the bottom and they weren't able to really compete with some of the other big market clubs, that's a possibility. It could turn out that way. It could also go a totally different way where they're more like, say, Tampa, another small market or low revenue team, still finds success. So there's no promotion like winning, and that will cure all ills. But there are still some questions Charlotte's going to have to answer about whether they can support a Major League Baseball team. And I think Charlotte was in the running for FIFA World Cup qualifiers. They want to be in the conversation for every major sporting event. Charlotte has had Final Fours, and Charlotte has, North Carolina is obviously a great market for college basketball. I think back to even 30 years ago, did we even think the NFL was going to succeed in Charlotte? I mean, there are a lot of people who have doubted Charlotte over the years, but the business climate here, there's a lot of smart people working on it. They know what things they need to address. And Danny Morrison and the crew at the Charlotte Sports Commission do a great job of sort of looking at these problems and trying to address them. As long as you have corporate support on your side, that will be a big feather in their cap, and it will help them compete against some of these other markets. If you look at the top 10 cities in our recent survey of the best cities, 6 of those 10 are sort of what I would call Sunbelt cities. So Phoenix, Las Vegas, Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, Dallas. Business is moving away from New York and Los Angeles. There's no question about it. Taxes are too high. Cost of living's too high. Some of the regulatory problems these cities have are just a lot to overcome. Charlotte, Dallas, Atlanta, they don't have a lot of these problems. And so you see businesses moving to these cities and they're growing, and I don't see that kind of growth on the coast anymore. I think we're undergoing, not just in sports, but really the whole country's undergoing a shift away from those two markets, and markets like Charlotte are definitely taking advantage.